10 Flight. The Houyhnhnms did smell like a barnyard, like horses and cows, like haystacks and manure piles, like sweat and dust. Dottie rode piggyback on one of them, his legs sticking straight out and his arms clutching for a hold around the Houyhnhnms' neck, all the while getting a good whiff of the Houyhnhnm scent. He remembered the Missouri farm where his great-uncle lived amid horses, chickens and one brindled cow with brown, lonesome eyes. Dottie liked the smell, but Elaine did not. She conspicuously pinched her nostril shut with one hand and held on for dear life with the other, as she raced toward Errett on the back of a galloping Houyhnhnm of her own. The stink. She shouted to Dottie. I think I'm going to be sick. But to Dottie, the Houyhnhnm smell was a remembrance of life past, when he was young and his days shone bright. Bobby was ahead of the rest, astride the largest Houyhnhnm in the herd, a brute with great muscular shoulders and shining hair the color of a burnt umber crayon. Yahoo! Bobby yelled, encouraging his Houyhnhnm to charge ahead even faster than the others. The Houyhnhnms proved to be strong, sure-footed creatures with seemingly limitless endurance as they galloped up the dunes in the lingering twilight of Planet 5. Their footing was less certain on the steep, spongy slopes of Errett itself, where they slowed to an amble while climbing the barren, green terrain. Hoffman had joined the Ramsey children after he saw from a distance that there was to be no battle after all. Now he, too, clung to the back of a Houyhnhnm in a journey that had jarred his every joint and bone. He was grateful for the sudden easing of the pace, but he was ready to stretch his worn-out body on the Errett ground, which was as soft as a mattress. Are we almost there? Dottie asked. Can't we stop a while? Stop. Up ahead. Hollered Jonathan. His light, almost weightless body was perched upon a Houyhnhnm's sinewy shoulders, high above all the others. In response, Bobby let out a long, high-pitched whinny, and all the Houyhnhnms fell into tight formation about him and halted. Dismount. Ho! Bobby commanded, but his companions had already jumped from their strange steeds. With his scissors, Jonathan once again opened up a slit in the surface of Errett, and he and the others gorged themselves with the pulpy fruit and bubbly fluid. But the Houyhnhnms would not partake. They whinnied and snorted to one another as if complaining that there was nothing here that could slake their thirst or satisfy their hunger. Thanks to Errett, giver of life, Jonathan said. Delicious. Bobby declared. Errett is bountiful, Jonathan said as, if completing a prayer, Errett leads us home. Very refreshing indeed, Hoffman said. Like nectar and ambrosia, it rejuvenates body and spirit. How do we get to the lander? Dottie asked. He felt as if the others were so caught up in their adventure that they had forgotten why they had come. He was the practical one. He would get them to the Wanderer. What's the hurry? Bobby demanded. Aren't we having a terrific time? I've had enough adventure to last a lifetime, Elaine said. Now I just want to get back to Mom and Dad. Dottie could see that she was about to cry, and he placed his arm lightly over her shoulders. I'll get us home, Dottie promised her. He was surprised by his own resolve. He did not think he could bear it if she started sobbing. If she did, he, too, would certainly begin bawling, and he didn't want that. They had to get off this planet. He thought of the teeth that Jonathan had shown him. How many more teeth must there be from all the children who had been copied in the budding grove? Dottie was sure they were in mortal danger here, even though their bellies were full, and even though Jonathan was leading them to the landing craft, and the danger they were running from was not just to them, but to their parents, to the crew of the Wanderer, and to all those who remained behind on Earth. Here's the entrance, Jonathan said. There it was, a round hole that might have been made by a giant rabbit. Or was it a pore in the surface of Errett? Or a mouth for swallowing them up? Let's go, Dottie said. As frightened as he was eager to do something about their plight instead of just worrying about it. Mount up, said Bobby, but the Houyhnhnms backed away. He whinnied and snorted at them, and they whinnied and snorted back. They're not much interested, Bobby said. They say it's entirely too dangerous to go on. Hoffman explained more fully. I'm afraid they're in revolt. I don't blame them, Elaine said. It's disgusting down there. Couldn't some of us stay up here and wait for the others? Let's not get separated again, Dottie pleaded. All for one and one for all. Bobby said. The Houyhnhnms snorted at him, whinnied and then charged across the arid plain, back toward the desert. A bunch of chickens, Bobby complained. But we're on our own at last, he said, brightening. Let's get moving. Jonathan, lead the way. Lander, ho. The boy obediently dropped into the opening and the others followed Bobby, Elaine and Dottie, and then Hoffman, slower than the rest, taking care not to break any bones. The tunnel felt even moister and mustier than it had before their journey into the desert. The faint light that glowed from the walls left no shadows. The travelers slipped frequently as if walking on ice, while nimble Jonathan led them down into a maze of corridors. The boy stopped often to let Dottie and the old scientist catch up with the others, only to plunge far ahead again. This way, he said excitedly. Not much further. Almost there. He had been saying it for more than an hour, for long enough that the others no longer believed him. Let's stop for a spell, Hoffman said, dropping to the ground and refusing to go any further. They all stopped. Dottie wasn't sure whether he was the first to notice a peculiar sound, a dull rhythm that was felt more than heard. It was like the beat of kettle drums in a Beethoven symphony, the roll of distant drums. Bobby declared. Enemy tribes in hot pursuit. Piffle, said Hoffman, who sat massaging his calf muscles. It's nothing of the kind. What is it then? Elaine asked. The sound was gradually growing louder. Feet, Dottie said, unsure of how he knew. Hundreds of feet. Thousands, Jonathan explained. In the tunnels, chasing after us. What did one tell you? Said Bobby. What'll they do if they catch us? Elaine demanded. They'll take us to the budding grove, Dottie said, and copy us. Elaine added. I knew it. Hoffman said, jumping up to his feet. He was for a brief moment jubilant to know that he had been right for 30 years. Perfect copies. Children who look like our children but aren't our children. Who aren't children at all. They're ersatz. Phony. Fraudulent. I knew it all along. What are you talking about? Bobby asked. They can make an exact duplicate of you, Elaine said. That'd be great, Bobby said. I could be a twin. Or a triplet, even. Terrific. It's not like that, Elaine explained. There'd be nothing left of you, except your teeth. You'd be dead. Deader than a doornail, Jonathan said. My little Davy, Hoffman said. My poor boy. That creature who came home to Miriam and me so many years ago was not our little Davy at all. Just a copy. I knew it. He looked like Davy, but you can't fool a mother or a father. Not for long. He was crying as if his son had been gone for just a day or two and not for decades. Forgive an old man, he said. I don't know why I'm carrying on like this. We lost him so very long ago. The pulsing sound of running feet was getting louder. The danger nearer, with every step. We should go, Jonathan said, or they'll catch you. Move along, then. Move along, Hoffman said as the sound of feet hitting spongy ground made the tunnel shake. This way. Jonathan said. Dottie and the others sped after him. They were running for their lives. He's a good lad, this one, Hoffman said. He puffed as he trotted along, trying to keep up with the others. Not at all like the others. Wants to help us. Still I wonder where he's taking us. The rumbling beat of running feet was getting even louder. The five of them ran until Hoffman and Dottie could run no longer. The others slowed for them, jogging instead of running. Then they walked instead of jogging. Dottie was winded. His lungs felt as if there were embers burning deep inside them. If he had to run any more, he was sure his chest would burst into flame. Back at home, he'd been able to run on and on, to race his friends across a field or through the park. Now, unable to catch a breath, he felt as if he were about to collapse like a hot air balloon with a rip in its fabric. Dottie knew that the Arid children never tired. The rhythm of their running feet rolled on, louder and louder. Jonathan begged them all to start running again, but Dottie could hardly lift his feet, and Hoffman could barely shuffle forward. You shouldn't wait for me, Hoffman said. Press on, press on. But they all waited. It's not much farther, Jonathan promised, moving ahead of the others again. You've been saying that for hours. Elaine said in a burst of anger. It's just down this way, Jonathan said, turning down another corridor, not running as he cried. We're here. We're here. Suddenly energized, even Hoffman and Dottie found the strength to run after him. They soon caught up with Jonathan, who had reached a place where the tunnel stopped. A fleshy wall blocked their progress. It's a dead end, Bobby said. Jonathan's tricked us. We're doomed. Jonathan was hurt by the accusation. You're my friends, he said. I'd never trick you. This is it. The lander's just on the other side of this wall. But we've got to be careful. It could be guarded. I knew it. Bobby said. We should have brought those weapons. They wouldn't have done much good, Jonathan assured him. He pushed against the wall. It opened into a huge cave, the biggest that the Ramsey children had seen. The walls glowed with a hazy light, and in the middle, filling most of the chamber, sat the lander. Its surface is still gleaming. Wow, said Bobby. It looks as good as new. How'd it get here? Anyway, it couldn't have come through that door. Eric brought it here, Jonathan explained. Did he take it apart first? Bobby said. It's like a ship in a bottle. Eric swallowed it whole. Dottie said, remembering the way it had disappeared into a crater soon after they landed. Hoffman nodded. Most likely, Eric surrounded it the way the skin does a splinter or any foreign body that intrudes upon it. That must be the way that all our landing craft vanished without a trace. Isn't that so, Jonathan lad? Something like that, Jonathan agreed. But how do we get it out of here? Bobby asked. I'm not sure, Jonathan said. But there has to be a way. Suddenly a hum came from the landing craft, followed by a low rumble of turning wheels and gears. A plate of metal dropped down slowly from the lander's sleek underside. The platform had a single passenger, a little with-haired man with a huge hump on his back. Who's the funny little guy? Bobby asked. That's Walter, Elaine said. Bobby moved toward the scurrying little man to get a better look. I wouldn't touch him, Elaine said. Why not? Bobby asked. No touching. Walter pleaded. But as the clumsy little man tried to back away, almost in reflex, Bobby reached after him, grabbing him by the collar. No touching. Walter screamed. Bobby certainly had not meant to hurt him, but that single, unthinking touch was enough. Walter disappeared in a puff of spores. Without a sound, he'd exploded into a cloud of what looked like smoke, a vile-smelling swirl of spores that enveloped all of them, and all the while the rhythmic beat of running feet was drawing even closer, rocking the cavern with the force of a small earthquake. Quick, into the lander. Dottie ordered them. Only Jonathan raced with him through the fog of spores and onto the platform. The others limped ahead, too stunned to move very quickly. Just as they all climbed up onto the platform, the flap of wall opened up behind them and a stream of Eric children began flowing into the cave. Their numbers seemed unending, like an invasion of ants. Even through the haze of spores, Dottie recognized some of the children who had captured him and Elaine when they first landed. He spotted a little red-headed boy, a taller one with jet-black ringlets and a girl with beautiful golden hair. The children had packed into the cave, thousands of them, surrounding the landing craft. All at once, they drew their wooden swords from their scabbards. The pounding rhythm of running children had ended, and Dottie could hear the whistle and wheeze of Hoffman's breathing beside him. Dottie realized that if he did not act quickly, he and the others would be taken prisoner easily. No matter how hard they fought, they would be caught and copied. They would be dead as doornails, just as Jonathan had said. But their parents wouldn't know that, not at first. They would think that the copies were real, and would take them back to Earth. What the danger would be, Dottie was not entirely sure, but he knew he would fight to the last if necessary to avoid being copied and reduced to a handful of teeth. Dottie did all that thinking in the smallest fraction of a second. Then he leaped toward the computer terminal on the platform, and as soon as he was able to type out instructions, he and his companions began to rise slowly into the landing craft. Stop them! Shouted the girl with golden hair. Don't let them get away! The children swarmed toward the rising platform, screaming and shouting. Get them! Grab them! Dottie did his best to push the copy children away, and the others helped him, especially Hoffman, who seemed rejuvenated by the fight. Hold them back! Hoffman shouted. Clobber them! Bobby yelled. But Dottie saw that the children's army was far too large to fight off. It would soon overrun the landing craft, no matter how hard he and the others struggled. Still, Dottie did his best to toss one light little body after another back into the sea of ersatz children below the lander. Bobby and Elaine seemed to be having a fine time, pushing back their enemies, who climbed over one another in order to reach the rising platform. They were clambering on board even faster than they could be thrown back. Soon, Dottie and the others were being steadily pummeled by blows from hundreds of wooden swords, which battered them to the ground. One of the children must have reached the computer terminal, because instead of rising, the platform now began to descend. Don't give up, Dottie said, but his voice was no more than a hoarse whisper, a signal less of courage than of certain defeat. The platform stopped. Soon he felt dozens of hands pulling at him and lifting him into the air. To the budding grove! Someone shouted. To the budding grove! Came the response from hundreds of voices in dreadful unison. But before the many hands could carry Dottie and the others away, a solitary voice cried out above all the rest. Halt! It said. The order had an immediate effect on the Eric children. They froze in their places and waited in silence. Put them down, said the same commanding voice. More softly now. It was Jonathan. Dottie and Hoffman, Elaine and Bobby, were all put back on their feet. like bowling pins that had been picked up and righted. All around them the thousands of children who had packed into the chamber knelt down, their heads on the ground, their arms thrust forward. Arise, children of Erot, Jonathan said. These are not your enemies. Leave us alone. He was calm and smiling as the ersatz children obeyed his every order, rising to their feet and moving noiselessly away through open flaps in the chamber's walls. Hooray for Jonathan. Elaine shouted as she threw her arms around his neck. How'd you do that? Bobby asked. It was easy, Jonathan explained. They're used to obeying orders, but I think we'd better leave as quickly as we can, before they stop to change their minds. Dottie typed instructions into the terminal. With a hiss like the door of a school bus, the platform finally joined the floor of the lander, shutting tight. They can't touch us now, Bobby said. Dottie should have felt safe, but he didn't. They had recovered the landing craft and were safely inside it, but he wasn't sure what he was supposed to do next. How were they going to get it out of the cave? He turned to Jonathan. Is there a way out of here? Dottie asked the boy, certain that he would help them if he could. I thought you could figure that out, the boy said, no longer smiling in his usual carefree way. Suddenly, after only a slight hesitation, Dottie knew exactly what needed to be done. Prepare for takeoff, he commanded the others. He began pushing buttons and flipping switches, each step in the sequence signaled by a series of green lights on the control panel. The viewing screen came to life, showing the glistening, flesh-like ceiling above them. There was no way out, Dottie thought, but he followed the bidding of the computer, punching at the panel and lighting it up as if he were decorating it for Christmas. Prepare for launch, said Mickey's familiar, calming voice. Was there a trace of a scowl in it this time? Dottie wondered, a hint that their prospects were doubtful. At best, after all, how could they take off from a cave? They all took their places in reclining chairs. Everyone looked a bit nervous, except Hoffman, who was smiling in his eagerness to begin a new adventure. There's an obstruction overhead, Mickey noted without undue alarm. I recommend that you abort takeoff. Dottie responded by pushing a series of buttons on the control panel. Do you truly want to override my recommendation? Mickey asked. In reply, Dottie pressed other buttons and flipped other switches. Very well, Mickey said. I'll begin the countdown. 10 seconds to launch. A roar of engines filled the cavern, making it difficult to hear the count, but occasional numbers rose above the din. 8. 5. 2. 1. Launch underway. The craft lurched upward. Then the howling began. A cry of torment and of pain, even louder than the engines. A sound that seemed to come from everywhere, from deep within the tunnels and flesh of Erot itself. What is that? Bobby shouted as loudly as he could. Were there any children left in the cave? Asked Elaine, shouting to make herself heard above the blast of engines and the animal scream. They're safe and sound, Jonathan said. It's the cry of Erot herself. Is it? Is she hurt? Elaine asked. Jonathan himself seemed wounded. He was still not smiling. It's the heat of the engines, he said. It causes Erot a lot of pain. The screen above them suddenly showed a flash of moon and stars as the roof of the cave opened up like a mouth. Dottie realized that the lander was making its own escape route as it rose, ripping through the very flesh of Erot. Liftoff +10, Mickey said. The speed of ascent quickened, pressing the lander's passengers into their chairs. As the craft emerged from the cavern, the screen showed the moonlit surface of Erot, falling away behind them, where the lander had been only seconds before. A jagged wound broke the dimly lighted plain. We're safe, Dottie declared. I was afraid we were going to burn up from our own heat. Hurrah! Hooray, shouted Hoffman. I never thought I'd ever get away. Me, neither, Elaine confessed. What was there to worry about? Bobby said, all of his own worries already forgotten. I'm not sure we're safe yet, Jonathan said. Look. He pointed to the screen. There above them they could see the giant X, its 4 arms clasping Planet 5 as the globe slowly turned into the light of a new day. The X seemed to twitch. It's alive, Bobby said. Of course, it's alive, Elaine said. I'm glad we got away in time. We may not be in time, Jonathan said. Erot can be swift when she's angry. As he spoke, one of the arms of the X moved, almost imperceptibly at first and then swiftly and surely. The giant arm, a huge tentacle that could reach across a continent, loosened its grip, lifted up and reached for their landing craft. It tried to swat the offending object the way a man might swipe at a mosquito that had bitten him on the elbow. The arm of Erot was long and powerful. Oh, my, Dottie said. Oh, My. Dot. The tentacle stretched out through the atmosphere of Planet 5 and reached into the coldness of empty space. It was moving toward them, faster than the landing craft could speed away, but then the entire planet began to wobble, like a top losing its spin, and in an instant, it flew out of its orbit and off the screen. Boy, that was close. Dot. Bobby said. Bye, Arrett, said Elaine, glad to be rid 44 of it. My old friends, all gone, Hoffman said, sobbing. There was no hope that anyone on the planet could have survived, and your friends, too. Dottie said to Jonathan. If Jonathan was upset, he did not show it. I'm with my friends, he said cheerily, and we're on our way home. Dot.